The 27th of October 2017, Sebastian Vettel believes that a loose screw was to blame for his fire extinguisher going off during the second practice session for the Mexican Grand Prix. Vettel slowed in his SF70H and expressed discomfort via the radio, before returning to the garage for a change of overalls, prompting a delay prior to his next run. He ultimately placed 4th overall, 0.250s behind Daniel Ricciardo, on his second ultra-soft lap, having abandoned his first effort when he shot wide through turn 11. When asked what went wrong in the cockpit, Vettel commented, "I don't know, some screw went loose, or came loose. Obviously the pressure found its way out, which wasn't that pleasant for me. A bit of a cool downy. Think our car is fine, but we didn't get a smooth session, with the extinguisher bursting." On his day, Vettel said it was so-so. "I was stuck in a lot of traffic. I think it was the same for everyone. It's a short track and with all the cars on track it's always tricky. It was okay, but we need to improve." Kimi Räikkönen, meanwhile, placed 5th, with the leading 3 teams closely matched. "It was a pretty normal Friday and for sure we can improve," said Räikkönen. "You always hope that everything is straight away exactly perfect, but that's never going to be the case." Latest news 12:48 Red Bull Racing driver Daniel Ricciardo talks through his tweaked Mexican-themed helmet design for this weekend's event at the F1 12:02. Marc Marquez rued a crash on his opening qualifying lap at the Malaysian Grand Prix, as he set only the 7th best time. Motop 11:34 Toro Rosso team principal Franz Tost says there is a high possibility that Pierre Gasly and Brendan Hartley will form the F1 10-12 Formula One. Sporting chief Ross Brawn says Liberty Media is receptive to the idea of changing the weekend timetable at events, as F1 0924 Fernando Alonso says McLaren has to sacrifice its chances of a strong result at the Mexican Grand Prix, in order to boost its F1 0806 Motop 0804 Repsol Honda's Dani Pedrosa claimed his 3rd pole of the season during a contested qualifying session for the Malaysian Motop 0526. Lucas Di Grassi talks about life as a champion, after claiming the title in Formula's 3rd season, and how he is approaching FA 2314. Haas driver Kevin Magnussen will have to pass a medical checkup prior to Saturday's 3rd practice session at the Mexican Grand F1 2304, F1 2302, F1 2252. Sebastian Vettel believes that a loose screw was to blame for his fire extinguisher going off during the second practice session. F1 2234 Lewis Hamilton described his race simulation during second practice for the Mexican Grand Prix as one of the best I've ever. F1 2210 Daniel Ricciardo says he is anticipating a pretty close battle for victory between the leading 3 teams at the Mexican F1 2134 F1 2132. Daniel Ricciardo topped the timesheets during Friday's second practice session for the Mexican Grand Prix, with Red Bull F1 2055. Daniel Kvyat would be a good candidate for the vacant 2018 seat at Williams, according to Red Bull team principal Christian. F1 1945 F1 1853 Red Bull team boss Christian Horner says he is keen to shut the book after Max Verstappen's apology for his reaction to being F1 1735 F1 1733 Valtteri Bottas led teammate Lewis Hamilton by almost half a second in a Mercedes 12 during Friday's first practice session. F1 1704 McLaren's Stoffel Vandoorne will revert to Honda's spec 3.7 power unit in Mexico after an anomaly was detected on his new F1 1631 Toro Rosso returning Pierre Gasly is set for a 5-place grid penalty after taking on new engine elements at the Mexican Grand F1 1545 F1 1420 Valtteri Bottas challenges sailing superstar Alex Thompson to a kart race in his homeland capital, Helsinki. In the latest F1 1314 Formula One, drivers have suggested that race officials need to provide better guidance with regards to track limits in the wake. F1 1132 Lewis Hamilton says he wants to claim the 2017 title the right way by winning this weekend's Mexican Grand Prix, rather than F1 1002. Find out how a Formula One garage is built and dismantled at each Grand Prix weekend with Mark Baker, part of the event support. F1 0928 Moto2 team boss Stefan Kiefer passed away in Malaysia on Thursday night, on the eve of this weekend's round at the Sepang. Motop 0849 Alexis Barguero is targeting a return to action at the season-ending Valencian Grand Prix after undergoing surgery on a hand. Motop 0834 Alfonso Celis Jr. talks about his destructive role at Force India ahead of his latest Friday practice run with the team on home. F1 0832 Max Verstappen has apologized for the language he used directly after being penalized at last weekend's United States Grand Prix. F1 0822 Motopo 820 Andrea Dovizioso topped the first day of running for the Malaysian Grand Prix, as riders tackled mixed conditions at the Sepang. Motopo 702 Max Verstappen says he hopes that Daniel Ricciardo will ultimately decide to continue at Red Bull beyond the 2018 season, after F1 0518 Mika Hakkinen reflects on his victory at the 2001 United States Grand Prix, which proved to be his last in Formula One, as he F1 1930 F1 1929 McLaren drivers Fernando Alonso and Stoffel Vandoorne will both be hit with sizable grid penalties at this weekend's Mexican F1 1853. Romain Grosjean takes you behind the scenes on his United States Grand Prix weekend in Austin, and reveals the secret to being a F1 1839. Sebastian Vettel says that he absolutely backs Maurizio Arrivabene to remain as Ferrari's team boss, describing him as a key F1